I don't need your assistance, thank you. She stood there in the pouring rain, designer coat, diamond earrings, a car worth more than Marcus would earn in 5 years, and dismissed him like he was nothing. Marcus turned back toward his truck. Fine. Let her freeze. Wait. Her voice cracked. The mask slipped. My daughter's alone. She's 8. She has a heart condition. Please. That word, please, from a woman who probably never begged for anything in her life. Marcus should have kept walking. His son was waiting at home. This wasn't his problem, but he'd buried a wife. He knew what desperation looked like. Comment your city below so I can see how far this story travels. 35 feet above frozen ground. Marcus Bennett's boot hit ice. His body pitched forward. Nothing beneath him but air and concrete. A hand grabbed his jacket, yanked him backward. His spine slammed against the beam. Jesus Christ, Marcus. Derek's face was white. You trying to leave Noah an orphan? Marcus gripped the support beam until his knuckles ached. His heart hammered so hard he could hear it over the wind. I'm fine. You almost died. Almost doesn't count. Marcus reached for his hammer. One more section. Let's finish. It's midnight. The storm's getting worse. Foreman can go to hell. Foreman's not paying for my son's winter boots, or the electric bill, or the $1,400 I owe the hospital this month. Marcus drove a nail home with 3 vicious strikes. One more section. Derek muttered something Marcus didn't catch. Didn't matter. 8 years working together. Derek knew when arguing was pointless. 20 minutes later, they climbed down through freezing rain. Marcus's fingers were numb. His back screamed. His left knee, the one he'd injured 6 years ago, throbbed with every step. You need a drink, Derek said in the parking lot. I need to get home. The kid's asleep. Come on, 1 beer. Can't. Can't or won't. Marcus opened his truck door. The dome light flickered and died. Does it matter? Yeah, it matters. Derek stepped closer. Sarah's been gone 4 years. 4 years, Marcus. You work yourself half to death. You never go anywhere. You never see anyone. My sister keeps asking about you. Good night, Derek. She's a teacher. Nice. Pretty. She doesn't care that you're broke. Marcus started the engine. It coughed twice before catching. I said good night. He pulled away before Derek could respond. The windshield wipers fought the rain. The heater wheezed cold air. The dashboard clock read 12:17 a.m. Another promise to Noah broken. His hand found the photograph on the passenger seat without looking. Sarah's smile. Sarah's eyes. Frozen in time back when she still had time. Almost home, sweetheart, he said. Storm's bad tonight. The psychologist said talking to her was healthy, a coping mechanism, normal. 4 years of talking to a photograph. Marcus wasn't sure what normal meant anymore. His phone buzzed. Text from Mrs. Patterson. Noah asked if you'd be home for bedtime. I told him probably not. He said okay. That boy never complains about anything. Breaks my heart. Marcus stared at the message until a horn blared behind him. Green light. He drove. Todd. The house was dark except for the kitchen. Mrs. Patterson sat at the table crossword puzzle in front of her reading glasses perched on her nose. You look terrible, she said. How was he perfect? Like always. She gathered her coat. Ate his dinner, did his homework, read 2 chapters of that astronomy book, then asked why you work so much. Marcus's chest tightened. What did you tell him? The truth, that his daddy loves him and works hard so he can have good things. She paused at the door. He said he'd rather have you home than good things. The words hit like a physical blow. There's meatloaf in the fridge, Mrs. Patterson continued. You eat something. And Marcus, yeah, that boy worships you. But he's lonely. A 9-year-old shouldn't have to be that understanding. She left before he could respond. Marcus stood in the empty kitchen surrounded by silence and the smell of meatloaf he had no appetite for. He walked to Noah's room, opened the door slowly. His son slept with one arm around a stuffed bear, the one Sarah had given him for his 5th birthday. Books covered the nightstand. Advanced stuff. Physics, astronomy, biology. The teacher wanted Noah in the gifted program. Private school applications, scholarship opportunities. All of it cost money Marcus didn't have. $142,000. That's what he still owed. The experimental treatments, the specialists, the desperate last months when he'd maxed every credit card, because what else could he do? Tell his dying wife, no. He adjusted the blanket over Noah's shoulders. I'm trying, buddy, he whispered. I'm really trying. Morning came too fast. Marcus made Noah's lunch while his son ate cereal, peanut butter sandwich, apple slices, a note at the bottom of the bag. You're going to do amazing things. Love, Dad. Sarah had started the notes. Marcus couldn't stop. Dad. Yeah, buddy. Ryan's dad is taking him to the planetarium Saturday. They have a show about black holes. Noah pushed cereal around his bowl. Can we go? Marcus's hand froze over the sandwich. He knew what was coming. Hated that he knew. Saturday's tough. I've got the Peterson job, then the community center. It's okay. Noah's voice was carefully flat. I have to finish my science project anyway. 9 years old, already hiding disappointment, already expecting to hear no. Maybe next month, Marcus said. Sure. They both knew next month would bring new excuses, new jobs, new reasons why Daddy couldn't be there. The drive to school was quiet. Noah stared out the window as the neighborhoods changed their working-class streets, giving way to bigger houses, newer cars, the invisible line between worlds. Have a good day, buddy. Marcus reached across for their fist bump. Noah hesitated at the door. Dad. Jason told everyone his parents are getting divorced. He was crying at lunch. That's hard. I told him it's worse when your mom dies. Marcus's throat closed. Was that bad to say that? You were being honest. That's never bad. Marcus forced the words out. But everyone's hurt is different. No need to compare. Noah nodded slowly. I miss Mom today. Me too, buddy. Me too. He watched his son walk into school. Small shoulders, heavy backpack, carrying weight no kid should carry. The construction site was chaos, flooding, delays, the foreman screaming at everyone. Marcus worked without thinking. Measure, cut, frame, nail, physical labor that drowned out everything else. At lunch, Derek found him. My sister. No. You didn't let me finish? Don't need to. Marcus stood. I don't have time for dating. Don't have money for dating. Don't have energy for anything except keeping my son fed and the lights on. Sarah wouldn't want you living like this. Sarah's dead. The words came out harder than Marcus intended. She doesn't want anything anymore. He walked away, threw himself back into work. By 6 o'clock, his muscles burned. His mind had finally gone quiet. The storm returned as darkness fell. He was 20 minutes from home when lightning split the sky. A woman stood on the roadside, black Mercedes hazard lights blinking, designer coat over what looked like hospital scrubs. Marcus almost drove past. Then she turned toward his headlights and he saw her face, controlled panic, barely holding together. He knew that expression. He'd worn it while watching Sarah die. His foot hit the brake. He grabbed his jacket and stepped into the rain. The woman's head snapped toward him. Up close, she was striking dark hair plastered to her face, sharp cheekbones, eyes that assessed him like he was a problem to be solved. Car trouble, he called over the wind. I don't need assistance. Thank you. Cold, dismissive, the voice of someone used to giving orders. Marcus shrugged and turned back toward his truck. Not his problem. Noah was waiting. Wait. He stopped. My phone is dead. Her voice cracked on the last word. The car won't start. And my daughter, she's home alone. She's 8. She has a heart condition. 8 years old. Heart condition. Alone. I can drive you, Marcus said. Or you can use my phone. She stared at him. He watched her weigh the danger, stranger dark road storm against the urgency of reaching her child. A ride, please. She followed him to the truck, hesitated at the passenger door, eyes cataloging the cracked dashboard, worn seats, the smell of sawdust and work. I'm Marcus. Victoria Ashford. She climbed in, clutching her purse like a weapon. Beacon Hill, as fast as possible. Beacon Hill. Old money, of course. What's your daughter's name? Lily. The heart condition, how serious? Arrhythmia. Usually controlled with medication. But she gets scared when she's alone, and the stress makes it worse. Victoria's jaw tightened. The nanny's stuck across town. Flooding. Marcus accelerated through a yellow light. She'll be okay. You don't know that. No, but panicking won't get us there faster. Victoria shot him a look surprise, maybe that he'd push back. Then something in her shoulders released just slightly. She's already lost so much. Victoria's voice dropped. Her mother, my sister, died 2 years ago. Car accident. I adopted her. I'm sorry. Are you... People say that without meaning it? My wife died 4 years ago. Cancer. Marcus kept his eyes on the road. So yeah, I mean it. Silence. Then quieter. I'm sorry too. They drove through flooded streets. Victoria directed left here, right at the light, the White House at the end. The neighborhood's transformed. Gates, gardens, houses that belonged in magazines. Victoria's house wasn't a house. It was a mansion. 3 stories of brick and columns and money Marcus couldn't comprehend. She was out before he stopped running for the door. Marcus followed without thinking. A scared child trumped social boundaries. Lily? Victoria's voice echoed through marble halls. I'm home? They found her in a sitting room. A small blonde girl curled in an oversized chair, hand pressed to her chest, eyes huge with fear. Victoria dropped to her knees. I'm here, baby. I'm here. Mommy! Lily's voice was tiny. My heart was going so fast. I know, sweetheart. I know. Is it better now? A little. Marcus watched from the doorway. Private moment. He should leave. Then lightning, cracked thunder boomed, and every light went out. Lily screamed. It's okay! It's okay! Victoria pulled her daughter close. The generator will... Nothing happened. Darkness held. Damn it! Victoria's voice shook. The maintenance company was supposed to... Mom! Lily's whisper cut through. I feel dizzy. Marcus stepped forward. Does she need medication? The nebulizer. It helps her breathing when her heart acts up. But it needs power. My neighborhood has power. Different grid. Come with me. Victoria's head snapped toward him. I can't ask. You're not asking. I'm telling. Your daughter needs help. My house is 20 minutes. Let's go. 3 seconds of hesitation. Then Victoria nodded. Marcus carried Lily to the truck. She weighed nothing. A fragile bundle of fear and trust. The drive felt endless. Lily sat on Victoria's lap, breathing shallow. Victoria murmuring reassurances that sounded more like prayers. Marcus drove faster than was safe. What else could he do? His house looked even smaller than usual. Peeling paint, dead grass, a kid's bike rusting on the porch. But the lights were on. Mrs. Patterson opened the door, took one look, and asked no questions. I'll make tea. Noah appeared behind her. Dad. We have visitors, buddy. They need our help. Within minutes, Victoria had the nebulizer running. Lily breathed through the mask color, slowly returning to her face. Noah approached carefully. Is she okay? Her heart works different than ours, Marcus explained. The medicine helps. Noah studied Lily with serious eyes. I have a book about hearts. Want to see it later? It has cool pictures. Lily nodded. Some of the fear left her eyes. The room exhaled. Lily improved. Victoria's death grip posture slowly released. Thank you, Victoria said. I don't know what we would have done. Anyone would have helped. No. Her eyes met his. They really wouldn't. The nebulizer clicked off. Lily removed the mask herself, took a deep breath, smiled. Better, Victoria asked. Much better. Lily looked at Noah. Can I see the heart book now? The children disappeared down the hall. Their voices carried back Noah explaining chambers and valves. Lily asking questions, the easy connection of kids who hadn't learned to let differences matter. Victoria watched them go. Something complicated moved across her face. Your son is very kind. He gets it from his mother. Victoria's gaze dropped to the bills on the table. Medical statements. Collection notices. The evidence of Marcus's financial destruction exposed to a woman who'd never worried about money in her life. How bad? She asked quietly. 142,000. 4 years of minimum payments barely touched it. I'm sorry. Don't be. I'd do it again, every dollar, every debt, if it meant one more month with her. Marcus's voice hardened. But I didn't get more months. I got debt and a son who needs a father and 3 jobs that still aren't enough. Victoria said nothing. For once, silence felt like the right response. From Noah's room, children laughed. Lily doesn't laugh much, Victoria said. Not since Diana died. Noah either, not since Sarah. They looked at each other. 2 parents carrying impossible weight. 2 people who understood what the other had lost. The storm's not stopping, Mrs. Patterson announced. Roads are flooding. You should stay. Victoria hesitated. Take my room, Marcus said. Noah and I will sleep out here. I couldn't. You can. You will. He cut her off. My son would never forgive me for poor hospitality. His mother taught him better. Something flickered in Victoria's expression. Surprise? Respect? Thank you. Later, after the children slept and Mrs. Patterson went home, Marcus sat alone at the kitchen table. Victoria emerged from the hallway in borrowed clothes, his old t-shirt and sweatpants drowning her slight frame. The polished surgeon was gone. In her place stood a tired woman, human and uncertain. Couldn't sleep, she said. Coffee. Please. She sat. He poured. The storm raged outside. I owe you an apology, Victoria said. For what I said when you stopped. I don't need assistance. I was scared. About Lily. That's no excuse. It's the only excuse that matters. Marcus sat across from her. I'd have said worse if it was Noah. Victoria wrapped her hands around the mug. My father will want to meet you. He's controlling about anyone who comes near our family. I don't need meetings or thanks. I saw a woman in trouble. I stopped. End of story. That's not how Richard Ashford sees the world. He doesn't believe in kindness without agenda. She paused. Neither did I, until tonight. And now, Victoria met his eyes. Now I'm not sure what I believe. The clock read 2:47 a.m. The storm showed no sign of stopping. 2 strangers sat in a cramped kitchen surrounded by overdue bills and children's drawings and the ghost of a wife who'd been gone 4 years. Marcus didn't know it yet, couldn't possibly know, but everything was about to change. The woman across from him wasn't just a stranded driver. She was the daughter of a billionaire who would try to buy Marcus's loyalty. The mother of a little girl who would become Noah's best friend. And eventually, against every odd, against every difference, against everything that should have kept them apart, she would become so much more. But that night in that kitchen, they were just 2 broken people drinking coffee while the storm raged on. And sometimes, that's exactly where the best stories begin. Morning light crept through the worn curtains. Marcus woke with a stiff neck and Noah's elbow in his ribs. The pull-out sofa had seen better days about 15 years ago. He lay still for a moment listening. Quiet voices from the kitchen. The smell of coffee. Victoria was still here. Marcus extracted himself from Noah without waking him and padded toward the kitchen. Victoria stood at the counter fully dressed in yesterday's clothes, pouring coffee into 2 mugs. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. "I made coffee," she said. "I hope that's okay." "It's fine." She handed him a mug. Their fingers brushed. She pulled back quickly. "Lily's still asleep. I checked on her twice. Her breathing is steady." "Good." Silence stretched between them. The easy intimacy of the night before had evaporated with daylight. Now they were strangers again, a billionaire's daughter and a man drowning in debt. "I called a tow truck," Victoria said. "They'll meet me at my car in an hour. I've already arranged a ride." "I can drive you." "You've done enough." She set down her mug. "More than enough." Marcus heard the dismissal in her voice. Back to normal. Back to separate worlds. "I should wake Lily," Victoria continued. "Get her home. Her medication schedule." "Mom." Lily appeared in the doorway. Hair tangled Noah's oversized t-shirt hanging to her knees. She looked impossibly small. "How do you feel, sweetheart?" "Good." Lily rubbed her eyes. "Is Noah awake?" "He was going to show me his telescope." "We need to go home, baby." "But, Lily." The single word carried the weight of parental authority. Lily's face fell, but she nodded. Noah stumbled into the kitchen, hair sticking up in every direction. "Is Lily leaving?" "They need to get home, buddy." "Already." Noah's disappointment was naked, but I wanted to show her my star charts and the model rocket we built. Marcus watched Victoria's face. The controlled mask versus the mother who'd seen her daughter laugh for the first time in months. "Perhaps," Victoria said slowly, "Noah could visit us sometime. We have a garden. Lily could show you." Both children's faces lit up. "Can I, Dad? Please." Marcus hesitated. Different worlds, complicated entanglements. Every instinct said no. But Noah was looking at him with something he hadn't seen in months. Hope. "We'll see," Marcus said. "We'd have to check schedules." "You always say that," Noah muttered. "I mean it this time." Victoria's eyes met his, a silent acknowledgement. Maybe. Possibly. We'll see. 20 minutes later, Marcus helped carry their things to the black sedan, idling in his driveway. The driver wore a uniform. Of course he did. Lily hugged Noah goodbye, a quick, fierce squeeze that surprised everyone. "Promise you'll come visit?" "Promise." Victoria paused at the car door. For a moment, Marcus thought she might say something. "Thank you again." Or goodbye. Or something that acknowledged what had passed between them in the dark kitchen at 3 a.m. Instead, she just nodded. "Take care, Marcus." "You too." The car pulled away. Noah waved until it turned the corner. "I like them," he said. "Yeah. Lily's nice. She knows a lot about hearts, and her mom's pretty." "Noah?" "She is." Noah shrugged with 9-year-old certainty. "Can we have pancakes?" Marcus made pancakes. Life returned to normal. Except it didn't. Not really. Monday morning, Marcus arrived at the construction site to find his foreman waiting with an expression he'd never seen before. Something between confusion and fear. "Bennett, office wants you, now." "What for?" "Hell if I know. Some suit showed up asking for you by name." Marcus's stomach dropped. Nothing good came from suits asking for construction workers by name. Layoffs. Legal trouble. Something about the debt collectors finally tracking him to his workplace. He walked to the site trailer, each step heavier than the last. Inside, a man waited. Mid-50s gray suit that cost more than Marcus made in a month, the kind of posture that came from private schools and country clubs. "Mr. Bennett." The man extended his hand. "Harrison Wells. I represent Richard Ashford of Ashford Medical Enterprises." Ashford, Victoria's father. Marcus shook the hand warily. "What can I do for you?" "Mr. Ashford would like to meet with you, this afternoon if possible. He's aware you helped his daughter and granddaughter during the storm. I gave them a ride. It wasn't a big deal. To Mr. Ashford, anything involving his family is a significant matter." Wells produced a business card. 3 o'clock. The address is on the back. A car will be sent if you require transportation. I have work. Your schedule has been cleared, with full pay for the day. Marcus stared at the card. Ashford Medical Tower, 60th floor. What does he want? Mr. Ashford prefers to discuss matters in person. Wells smiled without warmth. I assure you it's nothing concerning. He simply wishes to express his gratitude. Gratitude. Right. Billionaires didn't summon construction workers to express gratitude. I'll be there, Marcus said. He spent the morning trying to focus on work, failed completely. At 2:30 he cleaned up as best he could, washed his hands 3 times, scraped mud off his boots, wished he'd worn a better shirt. The Ashford Medical Tower dominated the Boston skyline. All glass and steel and corporate power. Marcus felt the weight of every unpaid bill as he walked through the marble lobby. Security checked his ID. Twice. An elevator whisked him to the 60th floor so smoothly he barely felt it move. The executive suite was everything Marcus expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Art that probably cost more than his house. Furniture designed to make visitors feel small. He refused to feel small. A secretary led him to an inner office where Richard Ashford waited behind a desk the size of Marcus's kitchen table. The man who rose to greet him was mid-60s, silver hair, perfectly styled handshake, firm to the point of aggression. He moved like someone who'd never been told no in his life. Mr. Bennett, thank you for coming. Mr. Ashford. Please sit. Richard gestured to a leather chair that probably cost more than Marcus's truck. Can I offer you anything, coffee, water? I'm fine. Richard sat across from him, studying Marcus with eyes that missed nothing. My daughter tells me you rendered significant assistance during the storm, that you opened your home to her and my granddaughter. Their car broke down. Lily needed her medication. It wasn't complicated. Wasn't it? Richard leaned back. A stranger in a storm. A child in medical distress. Most people would have driven past. Most people are wrong. Something flickered in Richard's expression. Interest maybe, or calculation. Victoria also mentioned you declined her offer of compensation. I didn't help them for money. Then why did you help them? Marcus held the older man's gaze. Because a little girl was scared and sick and needed to get to her mother, because that's what decent people do. Richard was quiet for a moment. Then he smiled, a thin, careful expression that didn't reach his eyes. Mr. Bennett, I'm a man who values information. I make it my business to understand the people who enter my family's orbit. He opened a folder on his desk. Marcus James Bennett, 42 years old, widowed. 1 son, age 9. 3 jobs, construction maintenance, odd carpentry work. $142,000 in medical debt from your wife's cancer treatment. Each fact landed like a blow. Marcus's jaw tightened. Is there a point to this? Sarah Bennett, pediatric nurse at Mass General, acute myeloid leukemia diagnosed at stage 4. 18 months of treatment, including experimental protocols not covered by insurance. Richard closed the folder. You mortgaged everything, maxed every credit card, borrowed from anyone who would lend, and still she died. Marcus stood. I don't know what you want, but I'm done here. Please sit down. No, you don't get to recite my wife's death like a business report and expect me to. I'm offering you a job, Mr. Bennett. Marcus stopped. What? Sit down, please. Against his better judgment, Marcus sat. Richard's expression shifted. Still calculating, but something else underneath. I own 37 properties in the greater Boston area. Medical facilities, administrative buildings, investment properties. They require constant maintenance, renovation, specialized carpentry work. He slid another folder across the desk. I need someone to oversee it all, someone with practical skills, and as you've demonstrated, good judgment. Marcus opened the folder. His eyes found the salary figure and stayed there. That's 3 times what I make now. Combined from all 3 of your current positions, yes. The role also includes full health insurance, retirement benefits, and access to our employee education fund. Richard paused deliberately. Which covers private school tuition through college. NOAA, private school, college fund. Marcus's hands were shaking. He closed the folder. Why me? Because you helped my daughter without expecting anything in return. Because you opened your home to strangers in the middle of the night. Because when Victoria offered you money, you refused. Richard's voice hardened. Do you know how rare that is, Mr. Bennett? In my world, everyone wants something. Everyone has an angle. You had the opportunity to leverage a billionaire's gratitude and you asked for nothing. So this is a reward. This is a job offer. A real one. Richard stood moving to the window looking out at the city he probably owned significant portions of. I won't pretend there isn't another dimension. You've been inside my family's home. You've seen my granddaughter in a vulnerable state. Having you as an employee ensures certain alignments of interest. You want to buy my silence. I want to buy your loyalty. There's a difference. Richard turned back. I'm not asking you to do anything unethical. I'm offering you meaningful work at fair compensation. The fact that it also ensures your discretion regarding my family is simply good business. Marcus looked at the folder again. The salary, the benefits, the education fund, everything he couldn't give Noah. Everything Sarah had wanted for their son. What exactly would you expect from me? Excellence in your work, professionalism, and yes, discretion regarding any personal observations about my family. Richard returned to his desk. Nothing more, nothing less. And if I say no, then you walk out of here, return to your 3 jobs, and we never speak again. Richard's expression revealed nothing. I don't make threats, Mr. Bennett. I make offers. This one expires when you leave this office. Marcus thought about Noah, the winter boots he needed, the science camps he couldn't afford, the private schools that could nurture his brilliant mind. He thought about the debt, the endless crushing weight of it. 4 years of minimum payments barely touching the principal. 20 more years at this rate. He thought about Sarah. What she would want. What she would say. I need to think about it. Richard's eyebrows rose. Most people would have accepted immediately. I'm not most people. Marcus stood. You'll have my answer by tomorrow. For a moment, he thought Richard would push, demand an immediate response, remind him that billionaires weren't accustomed to waiting. Instead, the older man smiled. A real smile this time, or something close to it. Tomorrow then. I look forward to your decision. Marcus left the tower with the folder tucked under his arm and a war raging in his chest. That night, he sat at the kitchen table long after Noah fell asleep. The employment offer spread before him. Numbers that would change everything. Mrs. Patterson stopped by to return a dish, found him there staring at papers like they might bite. What's all this? Marcus told her. The storm. Victoria and Lily. Richard Ashford's offer. The impossible choice between financial security and something that felt too good to be true. Mrs. Patterson listened without interrupting. When he finished, she poured herself tea and sat across from him. You think it's a trap? She said. I think rich people don't give money away without wanting something back. He told you what he wants. your work, your loyalty, your discretion. And if he wants more later, what if I'm in too deep to say no? Mrs. Patterson sipped her tea. Marcus, you've spent 4 years sacrificing everything for that boy. 3 jobs, no rest, no life outside these walls. She set down her cup. Maybe this is the universe finally giving something back. Or maybe it's a devil offering a deal. Then negotiate better terms. She reached across and tapped the salary figure. This money could change Noah's life. Private school, college fund, a father who's actually home for dinner. Her eyes met his. Sarah would want you to take it. You don't know that. I do, because she told me. Mrs. Patterson's voice softened. During those last weeks when you were at work, she talked to me. About you, about Noah, about what she hoped for both of you after she was gone. Marcus's throat tightened. What did she say? That she wanted you to live, not just survive. Live. Mrs. Patterson stood gathering her things. This offer could be the start of that. Or you could say no and keep grinding yourself down until there's nothing left for Noah to hold on to. She left him with that thought, and the papers, and the impossible decision. At midnight, Marcus made his choice. He called the number on the business card at 8 a.m. By 9, he was back in Richard Ashford's office. I'll take the job, Marcus said, but I have conditions. Richard's expression flickered with something surprise, maybe that this carpenter was negotiating rather than accepting gratefully. I'm listening. Clear boundaries. I work for you, not your family. My job is maintaining your properties, not managing your personal affairs. I don't spy. I don't report on anyone. I don't get involved in family politics. Reasonable? I keep my independence. If something crosses ethical lines, I walk. No penalties, no repercussions. Clean break. Also reasonable. And my son stays out of it. The education benefits are about his future, not leverage you can use later. He never becomes a bargaining chip. Richard studied him for a long moment. Then he nodded. Agreed. On all points. He extended his hand. Welcome to Ashford Properties, Mr. Bennett. Marcus shook it. Sealed the deal. He had no idea what he'd just walked into. The first weeks were disorienting. Marcus went from climbing scaffolding at midnight to having his own office with a window view, from driving a truck with a dying heater to a company SUV with leather seats, from juggling 3 schedules to managing a single structured role. The work itself suited him: property assessments, renovation planning, specialized carpentry projects that showcased skills he rarely got to use in his previous jobs. He was good at this, seeing what buildings needed crafting solutions that balanced quality with practicality. His team respected him. His projects came in under budget and ahead of schedule. Richard Ashford expressed satisfaction through increased responsibility. But the real change was at home. For the first time in 4 years, Marcus was there for dinner, every night. He helped Noah with homework, watched movies on weekends, took him to the planetarium, the trip he'd been promising for months. Noah bloomed under the attention. His grades improved. His laughter came easier. The careful, guarded expression that had lived on his face since Sarah's death began to fade. Dad, Noah asked one night over dinner. Yeah, buddy. Is this what it was like before? When Mom was alive? Marcus's fork paused. What do you mean? You being home. Us eating together. Noah pushed pasta around his plate. I don't really remember what it was like before she got sick. The admission hit Marcus harder than he expected. His son barely remembered normal. Barely remembered having a father who wasn't always exhausted, always working, always somewhere else. It was like this, Marcus said quietly. Better, actually, because she was here too. I wish I remembered more. I know, buddy. I wish you did too. That night after Noah fell asleep, Marcus sat in the dark living room and let himself cry for the first time in months. For Sarah. for the years he'd lost to work and survival, for the son who deserved so much more than he'd been able to give, but also for the first time in years, something that felt like hope. Yeah. 3 weeks into his new job, Victoria called. Marcus was in his office reviewing renovation plans for a medical clinic in Cambridge when his phone buzzed with an unknown number. "Mr. Bennett? This is Victoria Ashford." His hand tightened on the phone. "Dr. Ashford, I understand you've accepted a position with my father's company. Word travels fast. In my family, there are no secrets." Her voice carried that familiar coolness, but something underneath it. Uncertainty, maybe. "I wanted to speak with you, in person. Would you be available this afternoon?" "Is something wrong?" "No, yes, I don't know." A pause. "Please, Marcus. It's important." The use of his first name surprised him. He agreed to meet her. 2 hours later, he sat across from Victoria in a coffee shop far from the Ashford Medical Tower. Neutral ground. Her choice. She looked different than he remembered. Tired, the polished professional veneer thinner than before. "Thank you for coming," she said. "What's this about?" Victoria wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. "I need to warn you about my father." "Warn me." "He's already started, hasn't he? Integrating you into his network, making you dependent on his resources, showing you how good life can be with his support. He gave me a job, a good one. He gave you a leash." Victoria's eyes met his. "That's how he operates. He finds people with potential and vulnerabilities. He makes them dependent on him. And once they're dependent, they can't say no. No to what? Whatever he needs." She leaned forward. "My father is a brilliant man, Marcus. But he sees people as chess pieces. He moves them where he needs them, uses them until they're no longer useful. Then he discards them." "You're his daughter. Why are you telling me this?" "Because you helped Lily. Because you refused my money. Because you're not part of his world and you don't understand the rules yet." Victoria's voice softened. "And because Lily hasn't stopped talking about Noah since that night. She wants to see him again, badly." "What does that have to do with your father?" "Everything. If our children become friends, our lives become entangled. My father will use that. He'll leverage every connection, every relationship, every emotion to get what he wants." She sat back. "I'm telling you this so you can make informed choices, not because I'm trying to scare you away." Marcus studied her, the tension in her shoulders, the shadows under her eyes, the way her hands wouldn't stop moving. "What happened to you?" he asked quietly. "What do you mean? Whatever made you afraid of your own father? Whatever put those shadows on your face?" Victoria flinched. "Just slightly. Just enough." "That's not relevant to—" "It's completely relevant. You're sitting here warning me about a man you've known your whole life. A man who raised you. That doesn't come from nowhere." The silence stretched. Victoria stared into her coffee. "I was engaged once," she said finally. 3 years ago. Richard Caldwell. My father approved of him. Encouraged the relationship. Helped Richard's career in ways that seemed generous. What happened? Richard was using me to get to my father's business connections. When I found out when I confronted him, he told me my father knew, had known all along. Victoria's voice went flat. My father considered it a successful transaction. Richard got what he wanted. Our family gained strategic business alliances. The fact that I was humiliated and heartbroken was acceptable collateral damage. Jesus. My father loves me, in his way, but his way includes using the people closest to him as tools. Victoria finally looked up. I don't want that for Lily. I don't want her to grow up learning that relationships are transactional, that people are means to ends. Whoa. So why warn me? Why not just keep Noah away from her? Because she's happy when she talks about him. Because she laughed that night in your house, really laughed for the first time since Diana died. Victoria's composure cracked, just for a moment. Because maybe I'm tired of protecting her from everything good, along with everything dangerous. Marcus didn't respond immediately. He thought about Noah. The hope in his face when Lily hugged him goodbye. The way he kept asking when they could visit. "Your father already has me," Marcus said finally. "I took the job. I signed the papers. Whatever leash he's got, it's already around my neck." "That's not—" "But I didn't take it for him. I took it for Noah, for the education fund, for being home for dinner, for giving my son the life he deserves." Marcus leaned forward. "If your father thinks he can use me, he's welcome to try. But I've survived worse than corporate manipulation. I watched my wife die. I raised my son alone while working 3 jobs and drowning in debt. Richard Ashford doesn't scare me." Victoria stared at him. Something shifted in her expression. Surprise, maybe, or the beginning of respect. "You really mean that?" "Every word." "Then maybe," she hesitated, "maybe we could arrange something, for the children. Carefully. On our terms, not my father's." "What did you have in mind?" "Lily has swimming lessons Saturday mornings. Afterward, she usually has lunch alone while I catch up on work. If Noah wanted to join her just at the house supervised, nothing elaborate, it might make her happy. And your father, what he doesn't know won't become a chess move." Victoria almost smiled. "Can you manage that keeping something from Richard Ashford?" "I can try." They parted with a handshake. Professional. Distant. But something had changed. An alliance formed. 2 parents protecting their children from a world that wanted to use them. Marcus drove home with Victoria's warning echoing in his mind. Chess pieces. Strategic transactions. Acceptable collateral damage. He'd walked into the lion's den with his eyes open. Now he just had to make sure he didn't get eaten. Saturday came bright and clear. Marcus drove Noah to the Ashford mansion with careful explanations about behaving well and not touching anything expensive. "I know, Dad." Noah's exasperation was pure 9-year-old. "I'm not going to break stuff. I'm just saying, Lily's my friend. I'm not going to embarrass her." Friend. The word made Marcus smile despite his nerves. Victoria met them at the door. Different again, softer somehow, in casual clothes, her guard partially lowered. "Noah, it's good to see you." "Hi, Dr. Ashford. I brought my star charts. Lily said she wanted to learn about constellations." "She's in the garden. She's been asking about you all morning." Noah took off before Marcus could remind him about manners. Victoria watched him go with something like wonder on her face. "He's remarkable," she said. "He has his moments." They stood in awkward silence. 2 adults who'd shared something intense and intimate during a crisis, now navigating the strange territory of normal interaction. "Would you like coffee?" Victoria offered. "There's a terrace overlooking the garden. We can watch them without hovering." "Sure." The terrace was ridiculous imported stone designer furniture, a view worth millions. Marcus sat on a chair that probably cost more than his monthly salary had been 3 weeks ago. Victoria brought coffee, sat across from him, crossed and uncrossed her legs. "This is strange," she said finally. "Yeah. I don't have people to the house, not like this." "What about Lily's friends?" "She doesn't have many. Other children find her intense. She talks about medical conditions and loss and things kids aren't supposed to think about." Victoria sipped her coffee. "Diana was the same way. Too much depth for shallow conversations. Noah's like that too. His teacher says he asks questions that make adults uncomfortable." "Like what?" "Last week he asked why people have to die if God loves them." Victoria choked on her coffee. "What did you say?" "I told him I didn't know, that some questions don't have answers, that the best we can do is love people while they're here." Marcus shrugged. He said that was a stupid answer. He's probably right. In the garden below, Noah was spreading star charts on a table, while Lily listened with rapt attention. Their voices carried up Noah explaining something about light years, Lily asking questions that made him stop and think. "Look at them," Victoria said softly. "Like they've known each other forever." "Kids are good at that, connecting without all the baggage adults carry." "Is that what we have, baggage?" Marcus turned to look at her. Really look. The sharp intelligence in her eyes. The carefully hidden vulnerability. The beauty she probably didn't even notice because she was too busy being competent. "Probably," he said. "Yours is designer. Mine is discount store." Victoria laughed, surprised and genuine. "That's terrible." "I know. And accurate." They watched the children play. The coffee grew cold. The silence became comfortable. For the first time since Sarah, Marcus felt something ease in his chest. Something that had been clenched so tight for so long he'd forgotten it was there. He didn't know what it meant. Didn't know where this strange connection might lead. But sitting on that ridiculous terrace, watching his son teach a billionaire's daughter about stars, Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in 4 years. Possibility, and that he was beginning to understand was the most dangerous thing of all. The Saturday visits became a ritual. Every week, Marcus drove Noah to the Ashford mansion. Every week, the children disappeared into the garden or the library, or wherever their imaginations took them. Every week, Marcus and Victoria sat on that terrace, drinking coffee, talking about everything and nothing. 3 months passed. Then 4. The seasons changed. Snow melted into spring. Spring bloomed into early summer. And somewhere along the way, the careful distance between Marcus and Victoria began to collapse. It happened in small moments. A shared joke that made her laugh without guarding herself. A conversation about grief that left them both raw and somehow closer. The way she started calling him just Marcus, dropping the formality that had defined their early interactions. The way he started looking forward to Saturdays in a way that had nothing to do with Noah. Richard Ashford watched it all. Marcus could feel the older man's attention, the questions during their work meetings that edged toward personal territory, the casual mentions of Victoria that seemed designed to provoke a reaction. "My daughter speaks highly of you," Richard said one afternoon, reviewing renovation budgets in his corner office. "She says you've been good for Lily. Stabilizing influence. The kids enjoy each other's company." "Just the kids?" Marcus met his employer's gaze without flinching. "Is there something you want to ask me directly?" Richard smiled. That thin, calculating expression that never quite reached his eyes. "I'm merely observing. Victoria has been different lately. Less guarded. Almost happy." He leaned back. "I'm curious about the cause. Maybe you should ask her." "I'm asking you. And I'm telling you that your daughter's emotional state isn't my business to discuss, or yours to interrogate me about." The silence stretched. Richard's smile did not waver, but something in his eyes sharpened. "You're protective of her." "I'm protective of boundaries, which we agreed on when I took this job." "So we did." Richard returned to the budget spreadsheets. "So we did." The conversation ended there, but Marcus felt the shift. Richard Ashford had noticed something, and Richard Ashford didn't notice things without making plans. 2 weeks later, those plans became clear. Marcus arrived at work to find an emergency meeting request in his inbox. Ashford Memorial Hospital. Senior management required. Immediate. The boardroom buzzed with tension when he entered. Hospital administrators clustered in worried groups. Executives reviewed documents with grim concentration. Richard stood at the window, his reflection revealing an expression Marcus had never seen before. Uncertainty. Victoria entered moments later, surgical scrubs visible beneath her white coat. She looked like she'd come straight from an operation. Her eyes found Marcus briefly, before professional distance reasserted itself. "Thank you all for coming." Richard turned from the window, his voice carrying the authority of a man accustomed to commanding rooms. "I've received information that requires immediate discussion." He activated a presentation screen. A corporate logo appeared: Meridian Healthcare. Marcus recognized the name. One of the largest hospital acquisition firms in the country, known for buying struggling medical facilities and squeezing them for profit. Meridian has made an unsolicited offer to purchase controlling interest in Ashford Memorial. The words landed like bombs. Administrators gasped. Executives exchanged alarmed glances. Victoria's spine went rigid. "The offer comes with conditions." Richard continued, his voice flat. "Significant operational streamlining. Staff reductions of approximately 30%. Elimination of community care programs. Restructuring of research initiatives to focus on profitable treatment areas." A hospital administrator raised her hand. "Sir, those programs serve thousands of uninsured patients. The community clinics are the only healthcare option for entire neighborhoods. I'm aware of the implications." "The cardiac research program," Victoria said, her voice cutting through the murmur. "Where does that fall in their restructuring plan?" Richard's expression flickered. "Just for a moment. Pediatric cardiac research has been flagged for potential elimination. Insufficient revenue generation." Marcus watched Victoria's face go white. He knew what that program meant. Lily was enrolled in an experimental treatment through that research initiative, a treatment that was finally showing results after 2 years of struggle. "That's not acceptable." Victoria's voice shook with barely controlled fury. "Those trials are showing breakthrough results. Children's lives depend on—" "I'm presenting facts, not making decisions." Richard's interruption was sharp. "The board will evaluate all aspects of this offer before determining our response." The meeting continued. Richard delegated research tasks, outlined response timelines, maintained the controlled efficiency that had built his empire. But Marcus saw what others might have missed: the tension in the man's shoulders, the slight tremor in his hands when he thought no one was watching. Richard Ashford was afraid. "Bennett." Richard's voice snapped Marcus back to attention. "You'll evaluate infrastructure implications. Meridian has flagged several properties for potential sale, including the community clinics. I need comprehensive reports on each facility condition, market value, renovation requirements." The assignment hit Marcus like ice water. Richard was asking him to prepare the paperwork for dismantling the very programs that served people like him. People who couldn't afford premium health care. People who relied on community clinics because they had nowhere else to go. "I'll have preliminary assessments by Friday." Marcus said, his voice revealing nothing. "Excellent. This meeting is adjourned." People filed out. Victoria lingered, her expression unreadable, as she gathered her materials. Marcus waited until the room emptied before approaching her. "Victoria." "My office. 20 minutes." She left without looking back. Marcus spent those 20 minutes in turmoil. The job that had changed his life was now asking him to help destroy programs that helped people like Sarah. People who fought for their lives while insurance companies calculated profit margins. He thought about his wife. The experimental treatments that had given them 3 extra months. The community clinic that had provided hospice support when the hospital couldn't. The nurses who had held Sarah's hand during those final hours, even though the family couldn't afford to pay extra. He thought about Lily, her heart condition, the research program that was developing treatments that might save her life. He thought about Noah, the education fund, the private school applications. Everything that depended on his continued employment with Ashford Properties. 20 minutes had never felt so long. Victoria's office was a sanctuary of controlled chaos. Medical journals stacked on every surface. Framed achievements covering the walls. A single photograph of Diana and Lily on the desk, the only personal item visible. Victoria stood at the window, arms crossed back, rigid. "Close the door." Marcus did. "You cannot be considering this assignment." Victoria turned, her composure cracking. "Those clinics serve people who have nowhere else to go. The East Side facility saved 3 children last month. children whose families couldn't afford emergency care anywhere else. I understand what's at stake. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're preparing to help my father gut the healthcare system that serves the most vulnerable patients in Boston. I'm preparing property assessments. That's my job. Your job is whatever my father decides it is. That's how he operates. Victoria's voice rose. Don't you see what he's doing? This assignment isn't about property values. It's about testing your loyalty, seeing if you'll prioritize financial interests over human lives. What would you have me do? Refuse and lose everything? The job, the benefits, Noah's future? I don't know. Victoria's control shattered. I don't know what to do. My daughter is enrolled in a research program that might save her life, and my father is considering selling it for profit. How am I supposed to navigate that? The raw pain in her voice cut through Marcus's defensive anger. He saw her clearly, not the controlled surgeon or the guarded professional, but a mother terrified for her child. There has to be another way, he said quietly. Something between blind compliance and career suicide. Like what? I don't know yet, but your father hired me because I see solutions other people miss. Marcus stepped closer. Let me look at this. Really look. Maybe there's an angle that protects the programs without directly defying him. You'd risk your position for this. I'd risk more than that. Marcus held her gaze. Sarah died in a system that valued profit over patience. I watched her fight for treatments that should have been standard care but weren't because they weren't profitable enough. I will not help create more of that. Not for any salary. Victoria stared at him. Whatever she saw made her expression shift from desperation to something that looked almost like hope. What do you need? Access to patient impact data. Numbers that show what these programs actually accomplish. Financial metrics don't tell the whole story, but if I can demonstrate real community value, I can get the clinical data, research outcomes, patient testimonials. Victoria's mind was already moving strategic thinking, replacing emotional chaos. You handle the property side. Find reasons why selling these facilities doesn't make financial sense. That's not exactly what your father asked for. My father asked for comprehensive analysis. We'll give him comprehensive analysis. Victoria almost smiled. He never specified which conclusions we should reach. It was the beginning of something. Not quite conspiracy, but close. An alliance forged in shared values against the pragmatic cruelty of corporate healthcare. They worked in secret. Late nights in Victoria's office while the children did homework together nearby. Early mornings reviewing data before the official workday began. Carefully worded emails that documented their findings without revealing their purpose. Marcus discovered things he'd suspected but never confirmed. The community clinics operated at a loss on paper, but prevented hundreds of expensive emergency room visits. The research programs generated innovations that private healthcare couldn't replicate. The facilities Meridian wanted to sell actually saved the broader system money, just not in ways traditional accounting captured. Victoria provided the human stories. Patients who would have died without access to community care. Children enrolled in cardiac research trials who were showing unprecedented improvement. Families who'd avoided bankruptcy because community programs provided alternatives to predatory medical billing. Together they built a case. Not against Meridian's offer, but for the value of what would be destroyed if it went through. This is good work, Victoria said one night reviewing their compiled data. The children had fallen asleep in the media room, exhausted from some elaborate game only they understood. Really good work. Will it be enough? I don't know. My father respects data, but he respects money more. She set down the papers. There's something else we need to discuss. What? He knows about us. Whatever this is. Victoria gestured vaguely between them. He asked me directly last week whether my interest in you was personal or strategic. Marcus's stomach tightened. What did you tell him? I told him it was none of his business, which of course confirmed everything he suspected. Victoria met his eyes. He thinks he's engineering this. Whatever is happening between us, he believes he set it in motion, that hiring you, putting us in proximity, was all part of some larger plan. Was it? Probably. That's how he thinks. Victoria stood, moving to the window. But here's what he doesn't understand. What's happening between us, it's not his creation. It's not strategic or transactional or any of the ways he sees the world. What is it then? Victoria turned. In the dim light, with her guard completely down, she looked younger, vulnerable, beautiful in a way that had nothing to do with expensive clothes or careful grooming. I don't know, she said softly, but I'd like to find out. If you would. Marcus should have said something careful. Something about boundaries and complications and the 1,000 reasons this was a terrible idea. Instead, he crossed the room, stood close enough to see the slight tremor in her hands, the hope and fear warring in her expression. I'd like that too. They didn't kiss. Not yet. The moment held something more fragile than physical attraction, a recognition of shared damage and the possibility of shared healing. Whatever this was, it was real. And real was something neither of them had experienced in a very long time. The next morning, reality crashed back in. Marcus arrived at work to find Richard waiting in his office. The older man sat behind Marcus's desk, reviewing the property assessments that had been locked in the bottom drawer. Interesting analysis, Richard said without preamble. Quite different from what I expected. Marcus's blood went cold. Those are preliminary notes, unfinished. They're comprehensive, detailed, and they reach conclusions that directly contradict Meridian's projections. Richard set down the papers. You've been busy. I've been thorough, which is what you hired me for. I hired you for loyalty. You hired me for honesty. The two aren't always the same thing. Richard's expression didn't change, but something in the room shifted. The temperature, the pressure, the power dynamic that had been carefully balanced since Marcus's first day. My daughter helped you with this. The clinical data, the patient outcomes, that's her expertise, not yours. We collaborated, pooled our knowledge to provide a complete picture. You conspired to undermine my negotiating position with Meridian. We prepared analysis that serves the company's best interests, even if those interests aren't what you wanted to hear. Richard stood slowly, deliberately, a predator deciding whether to strike. Do you understand what you've risked? Your position, your salary, Noah's education, everything you've built in the past 4 months. I understand what I'd have lost if I'd done what you expected. Marcus didn't back down. My self-respect, my integrity, the ability to look my son in the eye and tell him I did the right thing. Noble and naive. Maybe. But I watched my wife die in a healthcare system that valued profit over people. I'm not going to help create more of that. Not for you. Not for anyone. The silence stretched. Marcus waited for the axe to fall. The termination. The consequences Victoria had warned him about on that first day in the coffee shop. Instead, Richard laughed. Not the thin, calculated sound Marcus had heard before. Something different. Genuine surprise. Do you know why I hired you? Marcus? Really hired you. You told me. Loyalty. Discretion. I told you what you needed to hear. Richard moved to the window, his back to Marcus. I hired you because you helped my daughter without expecting anything. Because you refused her money. Because in 40 years of business, I have never encountered anyone who couldn't be bought or intimidated into compliance. So this was a test. Everything is a test. Richard turned. And you just passed. Marcus stared at him. I don't understand. I never intended to accept Meridian's offer. Their acquisition model destroys everything it touches. But my board needed convincing hard data that demonstrated why rejection was the right choice. Richard gestured toward the assessments. You and Victoria provided exactly what I needed. Arguments that even the most profit-focused board member couldn't dismiss. You manipulated us. I created conditions for you to demonstrate your values. There's a difference. Is there? The outcome benefits patients who need community care, children who depend on research programs, families who would be destroyed by Meridian's corporate efficiency. Richard's voice hardened. I don't apologize for my methods, Marcus. I apologize for nothing. But the results matter. And the results you've helped create will save lives. Marcus wanted to be angry, wanted to feel used and manipulated and justified in his suspicions. But he thought about Lily, the cardiac research that might save her life. He thought about the community clinics, the patients who would continue receiving care. He thought about Sarah, what she would have said about means and ends, about imperfect actions serving worthy goals. The board vote is Thursday, Richard continued. You and Victoria will present your findings. The motion to reject Meridian will pass, and afterward we'll discuss expanded roles for both of you in shaping Ashford Medical's community outreach. You planned this, all of it. I planned possibilities. You and Victoria made choices. Those choices happened to align with outcomes I desired. Richard almost smiled. That's not manipulation. That's good management. He left Marcus alone with the assessments and the uncomfortable realization that Richard Ashford had been 3 moves ahead from the very beginning. The board meeting Thursday went exactly as Richard predicted. Marcus presented property analysis demonstrating long-term value that Meridian's projections ignored. Victoria followed with clinical data, showing how community programs prevented far more expensive interventions down the line. Board members asked tough questions. Marcus and Victoria answered them. When the vote came, it wasn't even close. Meridian's offer was rejected. Community programs preserved. Research initiatives continued. Victoria found Marcus in the corridor afterward, her professional mask slipping to reveal something raw underneath. We did it. Your father did it. We were just... No. Victoria gripped his arm. Whatever my father's machinations, we made choices. We gathered the data. We took risks with our positions because it was right. Her voice caught. Lily's treatment continues, because of what we did. Marcus saw the tears she was fighting, pulled her into an alcove where prying eyes couldn't follow. Hey, it's okay. I know it's okay. That's why I'm... Victoria laughed through the tears. God, I never cry. Ask anyone. Victoria Ashford doesn't cry. Victoria Ashford just saved her daughter's medical treatment. She's allowed. Victoria looked at him. Really looked. The barriers that defined their interactions from the beginning had crumbled completely. My father thinks he engineered this, she said softly. Whatever is between us. He thinks it's part of his grand design. Maybe it started that way. Does it matter how it started if what it becomes is real? Marcus thought about Sarah, about 4 years of grief and survival and the absolute certainty that he would never feel anything like this again. He thought about Victoria, her strength and vulnerability, her fierce protection of Lily, her willingness to risk everything for what was right. He thought about the future, not just surviving anymore, actually living. No, he said. It doesn't matter how it started. He kissed her. In an alcove off the boardroom corridor with his employer's daughter in a moment that should have been professional and wasn't. Victoria kissed him back. When they finally separated, her eyes were bright. My father's going to be insufferable about this. Your father can go to hell. Victoria laughed. I'm going to tell him you said that. Please don't. Too late. Already composing the text. They walked back into the public corridor, not quite touching, but something fundamental changed between them. Board members nodded at Victoria. Administrators congratulated Marcus on his presentation. Across the room, Richard Ashford watched them with an expression that might have been satisfaction, or might have been the calculation of a chess master whose pieces had moved exactly where he intended. Marcus didn't care. For the first time in 4 years, he had something worth protecting beyond survival. something worth fighting for beyond Noah's immediate needs. He had possibility, he had hope, and he had the beginning of something that felt against all odds like love. The question was whether that love could survive the world Richard Ashford had built, and whether Marcus could protect it from the man who believed he controlled everything. The kiss changed everything, and nothing. Victoria still arrived at the hospital before dawn. Marcus still managed properties and reviewed renovation plans. Their professional lives continued in parallel lines that rarely crossed in public. But privately, the walls had fallen. They stole moments. Coffee on the terrace while the children played. Late dinners after Noah and Lily fell asleep. Phone calls that started with work updates and ended with conversations about grief and hope and the terrifying vulnerability of loving again. Marcus hadn't felt this way since Sarah. The recognition terrified him. "You're different," Mrs. Patterson observed one evening, watching him prepare for another Saturday at the Ashford mansion. "Different how?" "Lighter, like you finally put down something heavy." She studied him with knowing eyes. "It's the Ashford woman, isn't it? Her name is Victoria." "I know her name. I also know that look on your face." Mrs. Patterson smiled. "Sarah would approve?" "You keep saying that." "Because it's true. She wanted you to live Marcus, actually live, not just exist for Noah's sake." He thought about that during the drive to Beacon Hill, about Sarah, about permission to move forward, about whether loving someone new meant betraying what he'd had before. Victoria was waiting on the terrace. She'd started meeting him at the door, a small thing that meant everything. "You're late." "Traffic." "Liar, you were overthinking again." Marcus couldn't help but smile. She'd learned to read him. When that happened, he wasn't sure. "Maybe a little." "Stop it. Overthinking ruins things." Victoria handed him coffee. "The children are in the library. Noah's teaching Lily about rocket propulsion. I'm fairly certain they're planning a launch. Should we be concerned? Probably. But Lily's happier than I've ever seen her, so I'm choosing denial." They sat in comfortable silence. The summer sun warmed the terrace. Somewhere inside, children laughed at something only they understood. "My father wants to see you," Victoria said eventually. Marcus's coffee paused halfway to his mouth. "When?" "Monday. His office. He says it's about expanded responsibilities." She met his eyes. "He knows about us. Officially. I told him." "How did he react?" "Like a man whose chess pieces moved exactly where he intended." Victoria's voice carried old bitterness. "He practically congratulated himself for engineering our relationship." "Did you tell him it wasn't his doing?" "I told him to go to hell, in more polite terms." Victoria almost smiled. He seemed delighted by my defiance, called it healthy boundary establishment. "Your father is a strange man." "My father is a manipulative man who occasionally achieves good outcomes through terrible methods." Victoria set down her cup. "But he's also the only family Lily and I have. I can't cut him out entirely, even when I want to." Marcus understood. Family was complicated. Love and resentment could coexist in the same heart. "What do you think he wants with me?" "I think he wants to make sure you're committed. To the job. To me. To whatever future he's imagining." Victoria hesitated. "And I think he's going to test you, push your limits, see what you're made of." "He's been doing that since day one. This will be different, personal." Her hand found his. "Just remember, whatever he says, whatever he offers, you don't owe him anything. Not your loyalty, not your compliance, not me." "I know." "Do you?" "Because my father has a gift for making people feel obligated, for creating debts they don't realize they've incurred." Victoria's grip tightened. "I won't be traded, Marcus. I won't be part of some arrangement or alliance or whatever he's planning. If we're together, it's because we choose each other, not because Richard Ashford decided it suited his purposes." Marcus turned to face her fully, saw the fear beneath the defiance. the scars from her broken engagement still raw after 3 years. "I'm not Richard Caldwell," he said quietly. "I'm not here for your father's connections or your family's money. I'm here because you're brilliant and fierce, and you make me feel things I thought I'd buried with my wife." Victoria's eyes glistened. "That's either very romantic or very concerning." "Probably both." She laughed, leaned into him. For a moment, the complications faded, just two people finding each other in the wreckage of their separate losses. Then Lily burst onto the terrace, Noah close behind. "Mom?" Noah figured out how to calculate escape velocity. "We're going to build a model rocket that actually works," Noah added breathlessly. "Can we get supplies? Please." The children's excitement shattered the adult moment. Victoria straightened her composure, reassembling. "We'll discuss it after lunch." "That means yes." Lily grabbed Noah's hand. "Come on, let's make a list." They vanished as quickly as they'd appeared. Marcus watched them go. "That's what this is for," he said. "Not your father's approval or disapproval. Not corporate politics or family complications. That." He gestured toward the doorway where the children had disappeared. "Making sure they have a shot at something better." Victoria followed his gaze. "They love each other. Noah and Lily. Real love, the kind children have before the world teaches them to protect themselves." "I know. Whatever happens with us, whatever my father does or doesn't do, we can't let it hurt them." "We won't." Victoria nodded slowly. A promise made. A priority established. Whatever came next, the children came first. Monday arrived too quickly. Marcus dressed carefully, not his best suit, but close. Professional enough to show respect. Confident enough to show he wasn't intimidated. Richard's office felt different this time. The same expensive furniture, the same commanding view, but the power dynamics had shifted. Marcus was no longer a charity case being offered opportunity. He was a man who'd proven his value and his principles. "Bennett," Richard gestured to the leather chair. "Thank you for coming." "Did I have a choice?" "There's always a choice. That's rather the point." Richard settled behind his desk. "You've been with us 6 months now. Your work has exceeded expectations. The board has noticed. I've noticed." "I appreciate that." "Don't. I don't give compliments for appreciation. I give them as context for what comes next." Richard opened a folder. "I want to expand your role. Director of Community Infrastructure. Oversight of all properties connected to our healthcare mission. Clinics, research facilities, support services." Marcus studied the documents. Significant salary increase, broader authority, a seat at tables where real decisions were made. That's a substantial promotion. It's a substantial responsibility. Richard's eyes sharpened. "It also means closer involvement with my family. Official involvement, dinners, events, holidays." His pause was deliberate. "I understand you've become personally connected to my daughter." Here it was, the moment Victoria had warned him about. "Victoria is an extraordinary woman. I'm fortunate to know her." "That's not what I asked." "Because what you asked isn't your business." Marcus kept his voice level. "My relationship with Victoria, whatever it is, exists outside your authority. You don't own her. You don't control who she cares about. And you don't get to treat us as another transaction." Richard's expression didn't change. The silence stretched. Then unexpectedly, he smiled. "You know, Bennett, most people in your position would be falling over themselves to please me right now, agreeing with whatever I implied, seeking my approval for their romantic intentions. I'm not most people." "No, you're not." Richard leaned back. "That's precisely why I hired you, and why I'm offering this promotion. The job and Victoria aren't connected. Everything is connected, but you're right that one shouldn't depend on the other." Richard steepled his fingers. "Let me be direct. I don't oppose your relationship with my daughter. Victoria has been happier since you entered her life. Lily as well. That matters to me. But I need to know you understand what you're walking into. Victoria isn't simple. Her history isn't simple. Our family isn't simple. I know about Richard Caldwell. I know about the broken engagement. I know she has reasons not to trust men who get close to your family. Something flickered across Richard's face. Surprise, maybe. Or reassessment. She told you about that? She tells me a lot of things. Because she trusts me. And I've done nothing to betray that trust. Yet. The word hung there. Challenge and warning combined. Do you have something specific to say? Marcus asked. Or are we just trading implications? Richard laughed. That genuine sound Marcus had heard only twice before. I like you, Bennett. Against my better judgment and decades of experience, I actually like you. He stood moving to the window. I'm not going to threaten you or demand guarantees. Victoria's choices are her own, and she'd never forgive me for interfering. Then what is this conversation about? It's about making sure you understand the stakes. Richard turned. Victoria's mother, my wife Eleanor, can be difficult. Old money expectations, rigid social standards. She's tolerated your presence so far because I've asked her to. But if this relationship becomes serious, Eleanor will become an obstacle. I've dealt with difficult people before. Not like Eleanor. She destroyed Victoria's previous engagement not through opposition, but through constant, subtle undermining. Death by 1,000 cuts. Victoria thinks Richard Caldwell was using her, and he was, but Eleanor also made sure the relationship couldn't survive regardless. Marcus processed this. Why are you telling me? Because I don't want history to repeat. Victoria deserves happiness. So does Lily. Richard's voice carried unexpected sincerity. And I've realized reluctantly that you might be the person to give them that, if you can survive Eleanor's campaign. So this is a warning. It's information. What you do with it is up to you. Richard returned to his desk. The promotion is real and has nothing to do with Victoria. You've earned it through work. But I won't pretend our lives aren't becoming intertwined. Marcus considered everything: the job, the warnings, the complicated family dynamics. The man who manipulated everyone around him somehow becoming an ally. I'll take the promotion, he said. And I'll handle Eleanor when the time comes. You sound confident. I survived watching my wife die. I survived 4 years as a single father working 3 jobs. I survived your tests and manipulations. Marcus stood. Eleanor Ashford doesn't scare me. Richard's eyebrows rose. She should. Maybe. But fear doesn't change what I want. And what I want is a future with your daughter and our children. Our children. Richard repeated the phrase. You already think of Lily that way. I think of her as Noah's best friend and someone I care about. Labels aren't the point. Richard studied him for a long moment. Whatever he saw seemed to satisfy him. Very well. HR will have your new contract by end of day. And Marcus? Marcus paused at the door. Don't underestimate Eleanor. She survived 50 years of my machinations. That takes considerable skill. I'll remember. He left the office with a promotion, a warning, and the uncomfortable certainty that his life was about to get much more complicated. Victoria called that evening as Marcus drove home. How did it go? He gave me a promotion, then warned me about your mother. Silence. Then, what exactly did he say? That Eleanor destroyed your previous relationship. That she'll try to do the same with ours. That I should be prepared. My father told you that. Seemed to think I deserved fair warning. That's... Victoria struggled for words. That's the most paternal thing he's done in years. Should I be concerned that your father being helpful is strange? You should be concerned that he's usually 3 moves ahead of everyone. If he warned you, it's because he wants you prepared. And if he wants you prepared, it's because he's invested in you succeeding. That's a lot of chess metaphors. That's how he thinks. Victoria exhaled. Listen, my mother is having dinner at the Cape House this weekend. A family gathering. Lily and I are expected. Pause. She's asked to meet Noah. Marcus's stomach tightened. Already? Word travels fast when you're dating the heir to a healthcare empire. Eleanor wants to assess you, both of you. What happens if we don't pass assessment? Let's not find out. Victoria's voice hardened. Bring Noah. Be yourselves. And whatever my mother says or does, don't react. She feeds on reactions. You sound like you're preparing me for battle. I am. The most dangerous kind family dinner. Saturday arrived with perfect summer weather and Marcus's growing dread. He'd faced down Richard Ashford. He'd survived the Meridian crisis. But somehow meeting Victoria's mother felt more threatening than any of it. Why are you nervous? Noah asked during the drive to Cape Cod. We've been to their house lots of times. Different kind of visit, buddy? We're meeting someone new. Lily's grandmother. Yes. Lily says she's scary. Noah considered this. But Lily also said her grandfather was scary and he's just kind of intense. That's a good word for him. Is Mrs. Ashford going to ask me questions? Probably. About what? School, interests, life. Marcus glanced at his son. Just be yourself, Noah. Polite and honest. That's all you need to do. What if she doesn't like me? The question carried weight Marcus hadn't expected. Noah wanted these people, this family, to accept him. Because accepting him meant accepting his father. Meant maybe someday belonging to something bigger than just the two of them. If she doesn't like you, that's her problem, not yours. You're a great kid. Anyone who can't see that isn't worth impressing. Noah nodded slowly. Mom would say the same thing. Yeah, she would. They finished the drive in thoughtful silence. The Cape House was crowded when they arrived. Richard and Victoria on the terrace, Lily racing across the lawn to meet them, and a woman Marcus had never seen before seated like a queen on an elegant chair overlooking the ocean. Eleanor Ashford was 73 and looked 55. Silver hair perfectly styled. Posture that could cut glass. Eyes that swept over Marcus and Noah with the precision of a jeweler assessing questionable stones. Mr. Bennett? Her voice carried generations of privilege. How nice to finally meet you properly. Mrs. Ashford, thank you for including us. Victoria insisted. The words carried something underneath. Criticism, maybe. Or challenge. I understand you were in construction before my husband hired you. Yes, ma'am. 20 years of carpentry and general contracting. A tradesman. Eleanor made it sound like a diagnosis. How interesting. Lily grabbed Noah's hand. Come on, I want to show you the tide pools. We found starfish last week. The children escaped before anyone could object. Marcus envied them. Victoria speaks highly of your work ethic, Eleanor continued. She says you're quite devoted to your son. Noah is everything to me. Single parenthood must be challenging, especially in your circumstances. My circumstances. Financial, of course. Victoria mentioned your previous difficulties. Eleanor sipped her drink. It must be quite an adjustment. From struggling to survive to all this. Marcus felt Victoria tense beside him. Richard watched with calculated interest. My circumstances have changed, Marcus said carefully. My values haven't. How admirable. Values are so important. Eleanor's smile didn't reach her eyes. Tell me, Mr. Bennett, what exactly are your intentions regarding my daughter? Mother, Victoria started. It's a reasonable question, dear. The man is clearly pursuing you. I'd like to understand his goals. Marcus looked at Victoria. She nodded slightly. Handle this. My intentions are to continue getting to know Victoria, to support her work and her parenting, to build something genuine if that's possible. He met Eleanor's gaze directly. I'm not pursuing your daughter for money or connections. I have no agenda beyond caring about her. Everyone has an agenda, Mr. Bennett. In my experience, those who claim otherwise simply hide theirs better. Then your experience has been with the wrong people. The terrace went silent. Even Richard looked surprised. Eleanor studied Marcus with new intensity. Something shifted in her expression, not approval exactly, but acknowledgement. Victoria's previous fiancé said similar things. He was quite convincing. "I'm not Richard Caldwell." "No." Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "You're considerably less polished, less refined, less suitable in conventional terms." "Mother, that's enough." Victoria's voice cut through. "I'm simply stating observations, dear. If Mr. Bennett can't handle honest assessment, he can handle anything." Victoria moved closer to Marcus. "What he shouldn't have to handle is being interrogated at a family gathering. This is how families protect each other. This is how you control situations. There's a difference." The tension between mother and daughter crackled. Old wounds, old patterns. Marcus stood in the middle of something much larger than himself. "Perhaps," Richard intervened smoothly, "we should have lunch. The children are hungry and conflict does terrible things to digestion." Eleanor rose with practiced grace. "Of course. Mr. Bennett will continue this conversation another time." She swept toward the house without waiting for response. Victoria's hand found Marcus's, squeezed tight. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Don't be. You warned me." She was worse than usual, trying to establish dominance early. "Did it work?" Victoria almost smiled. "You stood your ground. That's more than most people manage." They followed the others inside. Lunch passed with careful conversation. Whether children's achievements, safe topics that avoided the landmines Eleanor had planted. Noah charmed everyone without trying. He told Eleanor about his science project. Asked intelligent questions about her garden, complimented the food with genuine appreciation. By dessert, even Eleanor seemed slightly thawed. "Your son is quite articulate," she told Marcus. "Unusual for his age." "He gets that from his mother. She was brilliant." "Ah, yes, the nurse." Eleanor's tone was carefully neutral. "Cancer, wasn't it?" "Leukemia, 4 years ago." "How difficult, for both of you." For a moment, something human flickered in Eleanor's eyes. Recognition, maybe. The universal understanding of loss. "It was," Marcus said. "But we survived, and Noah's the best thing in my life because of her." Eleanor looked at him differently after that. Not warmth exactly, but something less hostile. After lunch, the children disappeared to the beach. Richard retreated to his study. Victoria helped with dishes, leaving Marcus alone with Eleanor on the terrace. "Mr. Bennett." Eleanor's voice had lost some of its edge. "May I be frank with you? I'd appreciate that. I don't approve of this relationship. Victoria deserves someone from her own world, someone who understands the expectations and obligations that come with our family name." "I understand. I doubt you do, but that's beside the point." Eleanor set down her teacup. "What I've realized today is that my approval is irrelevant. Victoria has chosen you. Lily adores your son. And my husband, for reasons I cannot fathom, actually respects you. So I will not fight this. Not because I accept it, but because fighting would only push Victoria further away." Eleanor's eyes met his. "But understand this, if you hurt her, if you damage what little trust she has left in the world, I will make your life extraordinarily difficult. If I hurt her, I'll deserve it." "Yes, you will." Eleanor stood. "We understand each other then." She walked away without waiting for response. Marcus sat alone processing the strange conversation. Not acceptance, but something like a ceasefire. Victoria found him there 10 minutes later. "You survived." "Barely." "What did she say after we left?" "She doesn't approve. She won't fight. And she'll destroy me if I hurt you." Victoria laughed. "That's practically a blessing from Eleanor Ashford." "It didn't feel like a blessing. Trust me, if she truly opposed this, you'd know. The fact that she's tolerating you means something." Victoria sat beside him. "You did well today, Marcus. Better than anyone I've ever brought home. Even Richard Caldwell. Especially Richard Caldwell. He tried to charm her. You just were yourself." Victoria leaned against his shoulder. "That's what I love about you. You don't pretend." Marcus went still. "What did you say?" Victoria pulled back, realizing what had slipped out. That wasn't... Did you mean it?" The question hung between them. Afternoon sun, warm on their faces. The distant sound of children laughing on the beach. The moment that would define everything after. "Yes," Victoria said quietly. "I meant it. I love you, Marcus. I don't know when it happened or how, but I do." Marcus looked at her, this complicated, brilliant, wounded woman who had crashed into his life during a storm and somehow become essential to it. "I love you too," he said, "against every logical instinct and all my better judgment." "That's very romantic." "It's the truth." He touched her face. "I never expected this, never looked for it. I was content to survive, to just get Noah through childhood and pay down the debt and never feel anything again. And now I want more. With you. With Lily. With whatever future we can build together." Victoria kissed him, soft and certain and full of promise. When they separated, her eyes were bright. "My mother is watching from the window." "I know. You kissed me anyway. She's going to have to get used to it." Victoria laughed, free and happy, in a way Marcus had never heard before. Below them on the beach, Noah and Lily were building sandcastles. Above them, Eleanor watched with an expression that might have been disapproval or might have been something else entirely. And somewhere in the study, Richard Ashford was probably congratulating himself on engineering another successful outcome. Marcus didn't care about any of it. For the first time in 4 years, he had something worth protecting. Something worth fighting for. Something that felt impossibly and wonderfully like love. 6 months later, autumn painted Boston in shades of gold and crimson. Marcus stood at the window of his new office corner view, actual furniture that matched watching the city he'd grown up in transform beneath the changing leaves. A year ago, he'd been hanging off scaffolding in freezing rain, wondering how he'd pay for Noah's winter boots. Now he was director of community infrastructure for Ashford Medical, living in a house with a functioning heater, and in love with a woman who made him believe in second chances. Life had a strange sense of humor. "You're brooding again," Victoria's voice came from the doorway. "Reflecting. There's a difference." "Is there?" She crossed to stand beside him, her white coat still on from morning rounds. "What are you reflecting about?" "A year ago today, I almost fell off a building." "That's morbid." "That's context." Marcus turned to face her. "Derek caught my jacket, saved my life. And that same night I found you standing in the rain telling me you didn't need help." Victoria smiled. "I was wrong about that." "We both were." He touched her face. "I spent 4 years thinking I didn't need anyone, thinking survival was enough, thinking Noah and I could just exist until the debt was paid and life got easier. And now I know that existing isn't living, and living alone isn't really living either." Victoria leaned into his touch. "That's either very profound or very cheesy." "Probably both." She laughed. That free, unguarded sound he'd learned to treasure. A year ago, Victoria Ashford didn't laugh like this. A year ago, she barely laughed at all. "I have surgery in an hour," she said. "But I wanted to tell you something first." "Good something or bad something?" Lily's latest cardiac results came back. Victoria's voice caught. "The experimental treatment is working. Her arrhythmia has decreased by 60%. The research team thinks she might be able to reduce her medication within the year." Marcus pulled her into his arms. Felt her shake with the tears she was finally allowing herself to release. "That's incredible." "It's because of you." Victoria's voice was muffled against his chest. The program that's saving her life, we saved it. Together. If Meridian had acquired the hospital, don't think about that. Think about the results. Think about Lily growing up healthy. I am. That's why I'm crying. She pulled back, wiping her eyes. Happy tears. I'm told they're a thing. They're definitely a thing. Victoria composed herself with visible effort. There's something else. My father wants to see us both tonight. Dinner at the Cape House. He says it's important. Should I be worried? With my father, always assume you should be worried. Victoria checked her watch. I need to go. But Marcus? Yeah. Whatever he's planning, and he's always planning something, we face it together. That's what this is now. Partnership. Partnership. Marcus agreed. I can work with that. She kissed him quickly and disappeared into the corridor. Marcus watched her go, marveling at how natural this had become. Morning conversations, shared concerns, the quiet intimacy of two lives intertwining. He'd never expected to feel this way again, never wanted to. The risk of loss had seemed too great, but somewhere between the storm and now, he'd realized that the risk of never feeling anything was worse. That evening, Marcus picked up Noah from Mrs. Patterson's house. His son bounded into the car with 9-year-old energy and a backpack full of homework. Dad, guess what Lily texted me? She said her heart is getting better. I know, buddy. Her mom told me. This is so cool. She was worried she'd have to have surgery again, but now maybe she won't. Noah's face was pure joy. Can we celebrate like as a family? The word hit Marcus differently than it might have a year ago. Family. Noah was already thinking of Victoria and Lily that way. We're having dinner at the Cape House tonight. Maybe that's a celebration. Is Mr. Ashford going to be there? Probably. Noah considered this. He's kind of intense, but he's nice to me. He asked about my science fair project last time. What did you tell him? Everything. He had really good questions. Noah shrugged. Lily says he's different with family than with business people. More human. Marcus wasn't sure he agreed, but he appreciated his son's optimism. Speaking of family, Noah said carefully, are you and Victoria going to get married? The question shouldn't have surprised him. Noah was perceptive. He'd watched his father fall in love over the past year, watched both of them build something that looked increasingly permanent. Would that be okay with you? Yeah. Noah's voice was matter-of-fact. I like Victoria. She's smart, and she actually listens when I explain things. And Lily would be like my sister. He paused. I always wanted a sister. You never told me that. You were sad, Dad, for a long time. I didn't want to make you sadder by talking about things we couldn't have. The admission hit Marcus like a physical blow. His 9-year-old son had been protecting him, hiding his own wishes to spare his father's grief. Noah, look at me. His son turned those amber eyes, Sarah's eyes watching him with careful attention. You never have to protect me from what you want, or what you feel. We're a team, remember? That means we share everything, the good stuff and the hard stuff. Even if the hard stuff makes you sad. Especially then. I'd rather be sad with you than have you carry things alone. Noah nodded slowly. Okay. Then, I miss Mom. Still. Even though I'm happy now. Me too, buddy. Me too. Is that okay? Being happy and sad at the same time? Marcus thought about Victoria. About the way loving her didn't diminish what he'd felt for Sarah. It existed alongside it, different and new, but equally real. Yeah, he said. That's exactly okay. The Cape House glowed with warm light as they pulled into the driveway. Victoria's car was already there, So was Richard's. And, unexpectedly, Eleanor's. "Full family gathering," Marcus muttered. "Is that bad?" Noah asked. "We'll find out." Lily met them at the door, practically vibrating with excitement. "Noah, come see what grandfather got me. It's a real telescope, not a toy one." The children disappeared before Marcus could respond. Victoria appeared in the hallway, her expression complicated. They're in the study, both of them, together. That sounds ominous. It feels ominous. Victoria took his hand. "My mother has been almost pleasant for the past month. That usually means she's planning something. Or maybe she's just accepted the situation. You don't know, Eleanor." They walked into the study together. Richard stood at his usual position by the window. Eleanor sat in a chair that somehow conveyed more authority than a throne. Both turned as Marcus and Victoria entered. "Ah, good. Everyone's here." Richard's voice carried its usual calculation, but something else too. Something Marcus couldn't identify. "Father? Mother?" Victoria's greeting was careful. "Marcus told me you wanted to discuss something important." "Several things, actually." Richard exchanged a glance with Eleanor. "Please sit." They sat. The tension in the room was palpable. "First business." Richard opened a folder on his desk. "The community clinic expansion you proposed, Marcus. The board approved it this morning. Full funding. Construction begins in January." Marcus blinked. "All 4 locations." "All 4, including the one in your old neighborhood." Richard almost smiled. "The presentation you prepared was compelling. Even the most profit-focused board members couldn't argue with your data." That's wonderful. It's what you designed it to be. Healthcare access for communities that need it most." Richard closed the folder. "You've done good work this year. Better than I expected." "Thank you." "Don't thank me. You earned it." Richard's tone shifted. "Which brings me to the second matter." Here it comes, Marcus thought. The catch. The manipulation. Whatever Richard had been building toward all year. "I'm stepping back from daily operations," Richard said. Victoria straightened. "What?" "The Meridian situation made me realize something. I've spent 40 years building this company, controlling every aspect of its development. But I'm 70 next year. It's time to consider what comes after." "You're retiring." Victoria's voice was disbelieving. "Semi-retiring. I'll remain chairman. But the operational responsibilities will transition to a leadership team." Richard's eyes found Marcus. "Including you if you're interested. Chief Operating Officer of Ashford Properties, reporting directly to the board." Marcus felt the world tilt slightly. "Sir, that's a significant promotion." "Yes, based on your performance and your values." Richard paused deliberately. "And on my assessment of your long-term commitment to this family." There it was. The real conversation. "I assume this isn't just about my work performance." "Your work performance is excellent. But you're right, this is about more than that." Richard moved from the window to stand before them. "My daughter loves you. My granddaughter adores your son. In every way that matters, you've become part of this family." "Richard." Eleanor's voice carried warning. "Let me finish." Richard held up a hand. "I've spent this year watching you, Marcus, testing you, pushing to see what you're made of. And what I've found is a man of integrity, a man who stands on principle even when it costs him, a man worthy of my daughter." Victoria's hand tightened on Marcus's. "I'm not asking your permission to be with Victoria," Marcus said carefully. "No, you're not." Richard actually smiled. "That's precisely the point. You've never asked permission. You've never sought my approval or tried to leverage my favor. You've simply been yourself, honest, hard-working, devoted to your son and my daughter." "So, what is this?" "This is me acknowledging what's already true. Your family now, Marcus. Whatever formal arrangements you and Victoria make, that's between you. But from Ashford Medical's perspective, from this family's perspective, you belong here." Eleanor stood. Marcus braced for the opposition, the cutting remarks, the subtle undermining Victoria had warned him about. Instead, Eleanor crossed to stand before him. "I didn't approve of you," she said. "I thought you were beneath my daughter, beneath this family. I was prepared to make your life very difficult. I remember. But I've watched you this year. I've seen how you treat Victoria, how you are with Lily, how your son has become part of our grandchildren's lives." Eleanor's voice softened fractionally. "I was wrong about you, Mr. Bennett. That's not an admission I make often, or easily. I appreciate that, Mrs. Ashford. Eleanor, if you're going to be family, you should use my name." Marcus glanced at Victoria. She looked as shocked as he felt. "There's one more thing." Richard reached into his desk drawer and produced a small velvet box. This belonged to Victoria's grandmother, and her grandmother before that. 5 generations of Ashford women have worn it. He handed the box to Marcus. "Father." Victoria's voice was barely a whisper. "I'm not telling you what to do with it," Richard said. "I'm not orchestrating or manipulating. I'm simply providing options. What happens next is entirely up to you." Marcus held the box, felt its weight, the history it represented, the future it might create. "I was going to do this differently," he said quietly. "I had a plan. I was going to take Victoria back to the place we first met, where she told me she didn't need help." "That's very romantic," Eleanor said, something almost like approval in her voice. "But maybe this is better." Marcus looked at Victoria, at the woman who had transformed his life with her brilliance and vulnerability and fierce, complicated love. "Maybe doing it here with family is exactly right." He got down on one knee. Victoria's hands flew to her mouth. "Marcus. Victoria Ashford. A year ago you stood in the rain and told me you didn't need my help. You were wrong. Not because you're weak, you're the strongest person I know, but because everyone needs someone. Everyone deserves someone who sees them clearly and loves them anyway." "Marcus. I've had one great love in my life. I never expected another. I wasn't looking for one. And then you crashed into my world during a storm, and everything changed." He opened the box. The ring caught the light antique setting, elegant stone, generations of history. "I can't offer you wealth or status. I can't give you anything you don't already have. But I can offer you this partnership. Every day. Through whatever comes. For as long as you'll have me." Victoria was crying now, not trying to hide it. "Will you marry me?" "Yes." The word came out choked, broken, perfect. "Yes, absolutely yes." Marcus slid the ring onto her finger. It fit like it belonged there. Victoria pulled him to his feet and kissed him deep and certain and full of promise. In the background, he heard Eleanor sigh, not disapproval, something closer to relief. Richard cleared his throat in a way that might have been emotion. The study door burst open. "Did she say yes?" Noah's voice was urgent. "Lily said to wait, but I couldn't." "She said yes, buddy." Noah whooped. Lily squealed. The children crashed into the adults, turning the moment into a tangle of hugs and laughter and tears. "I get a sister," Noah was saying. "I told you, Dad, I always wanted a sister." "You get a brother," Lily corrected. "That's better." "It's the same thing." "It's not." Marcus looked at Victoria over the children's heads. She was laughing and crying at once, her hand finding his, the ring glinting between their intertwined fingers. "They're going to argue like this forever," she said. "That's what siblings do. You're okay with that, with all of this." Marcus looked around the study, at Eleanor, who was watching the children with something almost like warmth, at Richard, who had the satisfied expression of a man whose plans had succeeded, though Marcus suspected this outcome had exceeded even his calculations. At Noah and Lily, already planning something, their voices overlapping in excitement. At Victoria, his future wife, his partner, his second chance. "Yeah," he said. "I'm okay with this." The wedding was 6 months later. Spring, not summer. Victoria insisted on avoiding the heat. The ceremony took place in the community garden attached to the clinic they'd saved, surrounded by patients and staff and the people whose lives had been changed by programs that almost didn't exist. Marcus wore a suit that actually fit. Victoria wore her grandmother's dress, altered and modernized, but carrying the weight of generations. Noah stood as ring bearer, Lily as flower girl. The guest list was eclectic. Derek and the construction crew sat next to hospital board members. Mrs. Patterson had the place of honor. Sarah's photograph tucked in her purse, not displayed, but present. Richard gave a toast that managed to be gracious and self-congratulatory in equal measure. Eleanor dabbed her eyes when she thought no one was watching. But the moment Marcus would remember forever came during the first dance. Victoria in his arms. The music soft. The world reduced to the two of them. "You know," Victoria said, "my father thinks he engineered this. He's convinced he orchestrated the entire relationship." "Did he?" "He created opportunities. We made choices." Victoria looked up at him. "The choices were ours." "Does it matter how it started?" "No." She smiled. "It matters how it continues." They swayed together. Around them, their families blended and complicated and somehow perfect celebrated what they'd built. Noah and Lily danced nearby, 9 and 10 years old, already planning their summer science project. Derek flirted awkwardly with one of the surgical nurses. Mrs. Patterson held court at her table, telling stories about Sarah to anyone who would listen. Richard and Eleanor watched from a distance. Something had shifted between the elder Ashfords too, a softening perhaps. The realization that control was less important than connection. "I have something for you," Victoria said as the song ended. "A wedding gift." She led him to a quiet corner and handed him an envelope. Inside was a letter. Sarah's handwriting, addressed to Marcus, dated 2 weeks before she died. "I found it in my father's files," Victoria explained. "Apparently Sarah wrote it during her final days. She asked a hospital chaplain to hold it for you until you were ready to love again. The chaplain passed it to my father years ago, thinking the wealthy Ashfords might know what to do with it." Marcus's hands trembled. He's had this the whole time. He didn't know what to do with it. A letter from a dead woman to a man he'd never met. Victoria's voice was gentle. "When he hired you, he made the connection. He's been waiting for the right moment. When I was ready." "Are you ready?" Marcus looked at the envelope. 4 years of grief, 4 years of survival, and now finally something new. "Yes." He opened the letter. "My darling Marcus, if you're reading this, you've found someone. I know you, my love. You'll have resisted. You'll have felt guilty. You'll have convinced yourself that loving again means losing me somehow. It doesn't. The heart doesn't work that way. Love isn't diminished by expansion, it multiplies. What we had was real and true and forever. What you find next will be real and true and different. Both can exist. Both should exist. I don't know who she is. I don't know how you'll meet her. But I know this, you deserve to be happy. Noah deserves to see his father happy. Don't wait too long. Don't hold back too much. Don't let fear of loss keep you from the joy of loving. I gave you my whole heart. Now I'm giving you permission to give yours to someone else. All my love forever." Sarah. Marcus read it twice, 3 times. The words blurring through tears he didn't try to hide. Victoria stood beside him, silent, present. "She knew," Marcus finally said. "She knew I'd need permission. She loved you. Of course she knew. All this time. My father had this all this time. He gave it to you when you were ready. That's not nothing." Marcus looked up, Across the garden, Richard Ashford watched them. The older man nodded once, acknowledgement perhaps, or something closer to blessing. "He's a manipulative bastard," Marcus said. "He is. But he gave me this, at exactly the right moment. That's who he is. Manipulative methods. Occasionally good outcomes." Victoria took his hand. "Does it matter if the result is what you needed?" Marcus thought about everything that had led to this moment. The storm, the chance encounter, the job offer that felt like a trap, the relationship that felt like risk. All of it somehow leading here. To Sarah's blessing in his hands, to Victoria's ring on her finger, to 2 children who'd become siblings, to a family built from the broken pieces of 2 separate lives. "No," he said. "It doesn't matter." He tucked the letter into his jacket close to his heart. When they returned to the reception, Noah ran up immediately. "Dad, Lily says we can have a treehouse at the Cape House. Can you build it? You're the best builder." "I think I can manage that. It has to have a telescope room, and a rope ladder, and a signal system so we can communicate." "That's a lot of requirements." We made a list. Lily appeared beside Noah, brandishing a paper covered in diagrams. "Grandfather said to give you the specifications and you'd figure out the engineering." Marcus laughed. "Did he now?" "He said you were the best problem solver he'd ever hired, and that you'd want to do this right." Victoria caught his eye, smiled. "Tell your grandfather I'll review the specifications tomorrow." "Yes." Noah pumped his fist. "Come on, Lily. Let's add the zip line." They vanished into the crowd. Marcus watched them go, his son and his new stepdaughter already inseparable, already dreaming together. "You know," Victoria said, "our life is going to be chaos. 2 demanding careers, 2 children. My father's constant meddling. My mother's opinions about everything." "Probably. You're okay with that?" Marcus turned to face his wife. The word still felt new. Wonderful. "A year ago, I was alone, working 3 jobs, drowning in debt, talking to a photograph because I'd forgotten how to talk to living people." He took her hands. "Now I have a partner, a family, a purpose beyond survival." "That's not an answer." "Yes, it is. The answer is yes. To the chaos, to the complications, to whatever comes next." He pulled her close. "I spent 4 years learning that existing isn't living. I'm done existing. I want to live. With you, with our children, with whatever messy, beautiful, complicated future we can build together." Victoria kissed him. Around them, guests cheered. Noah and Lily made disgusted noises. Richard probably took credit for the moment. None of it mattered. What mattered was this 2 people who'd found each other in a storm. 2 broken families that had become one. 2 lives that had been transformed by a chance encounter and the choice to see it through. Marcus had spent 4 years thinking he didn't need help, thinking he could carry everything alone, thinking that asking for help meant weakness and accepting it meant debt. He'd been wrong. Sometimes help came in unexpected forms. A stranger in the rain, a job that looked like manipulation, a family that felt like risk. The trick wasn't refusing help. The trick was recognizing when accepting it was the bravest thing you could do. As the reception continued around them, Marcus held his wife and watched their children scheme together and felt for the first time in 5 years genuinely at peace. Sarah was gone. That grief would never fully disappear. But alongside it now lived something new, hope and love and the promise of years to come. The storm that had brought them together had passed long ago. What remained was everything that mattered: family, partnership, love, the courage to start again, and the knowledge that sometimes the best things in life come from the moments when you stop and help a stranger in the rain, even when they tell you they don't need it, even when you're not sure you have anything left to give. Because the truth is, we all need each other, and the strongest thing any of us can do is admit it.